we do. All the things that matter most to you. Real talk, real faith, real life. With God by your side. Through the ups and downs. And helping you turn your life around. From the strongholds of every day. To the blessings that come your way. We'll explore it all with the heart of grace. And the focus on love in a sacred place. Real talk, real faith, real life. With God by your side. Guiding you through the ups and downs. And helping you turn your life around. From the struggles of every day to the blessings that come your way. We'll explore it all with the heart of grace and the focus on love in a sacred place. Real talk, real faith, real life. With God by your side, guiding you through the
Passionate love.
and helping you.
You have two independent words, passion and love, fused together to make a strong definition. Passion is the force that drives the love for something. It's the fuel that keeps love going. Love without passion is like a body without a soul. It's like a car without an engine. No movement would happen. And just in case you are wondering how you can tell if someone truly loves you or if you truly love someone, sacrifice. Sacrifice for one another will indicate if you truly love each other. And sacrifice is giving up something for another thing that is far more important. Just like giving up that piece of pie for your girl that is far more important. Or it's the release of something in your possession in an exchange for another thing that you love. This is exactly what God did when He released and sacrificed His only Son, Jesus, just to have us. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him will not perish, but have everlasting life.
Good evening. Thank you for joining me tonight on Real Talk with Jean Price. I am so excited about tonight's show. I want you to go and I want you to like, I want you to subscribe. We have some amazing shows that are going to be coming up in the spring as we prepare for the summer. Guess what? We're also going to be planning another live show, so you don't want to miss the wonderful things that my production team and I have planned. Last week, we had such a great conversation with Bishop Price and Pastor Darrell, and we dove right into talking about things that men discuss as far as vulnerability, about feeling safe. So this week on the show, it is such an honor and a privilege to have Pastor Denise with us. She's been on the show before, a woman of wisdom, a woman who God has definitely graced with the ability to help other people. And I think that's what I love about them the most is their heart of passion to help others. And that's really, they're kingdom-minded people. And I think that's what I love also. So without further ado, help me welcome Pastor Denise to Real Talk tonight with Jean Price. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
How are you doing, Pastor Denise?
I am well. I am well. How are you?
I am doing great. Before we get started, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I know you've been on here on plenty of times, but for those that have never heard your wisdom and met you before, why don't you kind of tell them a little bit about you?
So my name is Denise Wilson, and I'm married, of course, to Mr. Darrell Wilson, who was on last week. And together, we both have a business called Better Together Counseling that we have been in business with for quite a few years now. And a lot of people ask us, how is it that we ended up being in this practice?
Mm,
And our answer is always God. And the reason why we say God is because we didn't expect that this would be
mm,
what God would have us to do. We did so many other things. We did sacred art. My husband's a singer, I'm a dancer. And so we always incorporated the ministry of counseling because we came out of Greater Allen Cathedral, part of the marriage ministry. And we were also one of the leaders that also led the premarital counseling classes. So that was always been something we did that we loved to do. However, we didn't expect that this would be the actual calling that we would do together as a couple. So I think that that has been pretty much the niche. And now that we are both retired, we are able to do this full time.
that's beautiful. That's awesome. So we're going to dive right in, Pastor Denise. I want to kind of pivot back a little bit. My husband was my co-host last week, and like I said, and Pastor Darrell, and they were talking about things that affect men, communication. Men were taught not to cry, be emotional. As women, how can we make a space where men can feel safe enough to disclose and want to talk?
I believe we can create that space. First of all, what's important is to have them to describe the type of space that they feel safe in. What is the space that you need that feels safe? Describe that so that we are able to facilitate that for you. What is it that you need us as your women, your wives, your fiancés, your girlfriends? What is it that we would have to do for you to feel safe? And oftentimes, I think a lot about Delilah in the Bible because Delilah was able to make Samson feel safe enough to even give information to her that she used against him. But we would not use the information against our men, but encourage them to be able to put their heads on our laps, be able to sit there and lay there and just tell us what are their worries, what are their concerns, what is going on with them without lashback, without judgment, without ridicule. And I think that's what's important. But also, too, we need to know from them
Mm-hmm.
how it is for us that we can give them that kind of support. What is the way that they need to see it?
Yeah, that's a profound answer, and I appreciate that. I like the example you used, Pastor Denise, with Delilah. And you're right; she made Samson feel safe. That he actually gave her his secret to his strength. And as women, I counsel women too in our ministry, but I notice that sometimes with women they want to change men or they want to mother men.
Absolutely.
Pastor Denise,
Absolutely.
can we speak to that a little bit? Because I've been in it for 40 years. The number, even though it's 40 years, through the 40 years, I had to learn some things. I had to learn what honor was about. I had to learn, and a lot of people don't like the word submission. But remember, we're submitting one to the other. When God gives you that kind of revelation, the word submission really doesn't have that negative undertone to it. So can you kind of speak to some of those woes in relationship?
It's so important that I believe what you're saying in regards to mothering, wanting to change.
Yes.
I believe that that comes from a place of control and wanting to be able to manage our environment. So, as a mother, we tell our children what to do, what not to do. And then it comes a time and place where we have to really stop mothering, but parenting them separate and far away to allow them to fall, to allow them to make decisions on their own. Because a lot of times, what we will do is control our children, and then when it's time for them to make choices and decisions, they can't.
Right.
And if they make the wrong choice, they feel like, oh my God, I'm this failure. And
Right.
reality, we all fail in some choices that we make and some decisions that we make. But I believe that that mothering aspect and that fact of us thinking that we can make changes,
Mhm.
and the only thing we can change is ourselves. The only thing we can do is change our perspective, change our idea of what we think our men are. And we also have to acknowledge the fact that we ourselves also believe that they're not feeling individuals either.
Yes.
And we have to
Yes.
change that perspective and that narrative for ourselves first in
Mhm.
order for us to even receive their feelings.
That is. Do you think that speaking to what you're saying? Do you think as women, you mentioned control? That was such a great word, because I think there are times where I don't know if it comes from low self-esteem, maybe it comes from the background that some of us may have. Why is that there that women feel they have to control?
I believe it does have something to do with us, with our self-esteem
Yeah, I was wondering.
and
Yeah.
not being able, when we feel like we're not enough,
Mm, yes.
we want to be able to control the narrative to show we are enough.
Yes.
But how do we do that?
Yes.
In what way do we do that?
Hmm.
Are we tugging and warring to say, we say we want men to be leaders, and then we want to go in and lead them and tell us to lead how to lead us,
Right.
right? And
Yes.
then because we're such detailers,
Mm,
right? So that's another thing.
right.
Because we're such detailers, we have to be able to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G when our men are highlighters. So they'll do A, G, X, and Z.
Yes.
And we're saying, but you missed all these steps. So
Mhm.
that's where the control,
Yes.
the
Yes.
feeling like we have to put something in, we have to contribute something. And sometimes it's not even required,
Right. Right.
right? And the thing is, if we let them do it and it didn't work, right? It's okay,
Mhm.
because then we can fill in where they can't. And
Yes.
I think that's the one thing we don't relinquish.
Mm, that's good.
We
Yeah.
don't relinquish that. We fight against it to insist we should be a part of it. My husband always said, it's so hard to surprise you because you want to know everything. You're in the business for everything. And it's like insanely crazy to even try to surprise you. And it's true.
Wow.
It's true.
Right.
I'm a dancer, choreographer. We are responsible for everything, the costumes, the movements, what it looks like, what it sounds like. And so, because I'm so enmeshed in the details,
Oh,
yeah, what's going on with you? You're acting funny. What's wrong?
right.
That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? So we oversensitize things.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's where I believe that control comes in. And then I think the control is also a part of us being in defense of being hurt.
Mm. Speak to that a little more. For those that are listening right now, I think this is so powerful what Pastor Denise is saying. Speak to that, because I do think that that's part of the walls that go up.
Oh,
That's part of
absolutely.
that being a little reserved. Speak to that, because I believe that there's something that you can say to help women that. Let me speak for me, because I like to tell them myself, whether I'm preaching or whatever. I know for me, I did build up that wall, but my background was trauma related. So I didn't help create, is a better way to say it, a platform where I felt safe. So then,
Correct.
therefore, I had those walls up. Can you speak to those walls, so maybe somebody can bring those walls down?
Oh, I absolutely came into our relationship with walls. I am coming from a large family of 12,
Wow.
9 brothers, 2 sisters, plus myself, right? And Caribbean background.
Okay.
And it was very abusive in times. And my father was, God rest his soul, and I love them both. And I gleaned the lessons that I needed to learn after them passing.
Right.
But seeing the level of dysfunction that was within the household, as far as the yelling, the arguing, sometimes the physical abuse,
Right.
sometimes the emotional abuse, and things like that. So, what happened to me, I'm speaking for myself in specific,
Yes.
I never saw my mom defending herself.
Okay. Understood.
I didn't see her defend herself against the things my dad would do,
Okay.
right? I didn't see that because she was very God driven,
Mm,
but I knew then there must have been some other way she managed it that I did not see.
okay.
And so, one of the things that in our relationship with Daryl, and if I noticed something that looked familiar to me,
Mm,
then I'm like, something's not right. And then what I would do is I would stand my position where my mom didn't stand her position, say, oh, you're
yeah.
not going to do that to me.
Right. 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 Hmm.
And it was one of those things. And so that became the wall. The
Okay.
minute I saw something that triggered that exact feeling I felt when I was home during those chaotic situations,
Yes.
That wall instantly came up.
Mm.
So if he spoke to me a certain way, the
Wall.
wall was up.
Right.
If I felt um, emotionally disconnected and I felt like he didn't care, my wall came up.
Hmm.
And so, not realizing that that wall coming up is what created that division,
Yes. Yes. Hmm.
right? And so, the wall coming up was to protect me. So, when I went and I did my first session and my first time in therapy, my therapist told me when I explained to her my life and things I was going through, she said to me, "You know what you are? You are a ball of warm, fuzzy, passion, loving, wrapped up in this hard, cold, gray shell." And I literally could see it. I could see it. I could feel it.
Mm.
And I knew that was my way of protecting me emotionally,
Right.
physically, spiritually. That was the way I defended me in the relationship when I didn't need to do that.
Right.
And so, what she expressed to me was our work is for you to put down that hard, cold, gray shell
Yes.
and be able for people to see that
Yeah.
passionate, compassionate, caring woman
Yeah.
that you are. And you can still protect yourself, but it doesn't have to be hard.
Wow. That was beautiful. Wow, that's awesome. So when did you realize, Pastor Denise, that the wall started actually coming down? Like, how did you gauge it?
I felt it. I felt it because, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about, which was I used the opportunity that I had going to counseling as my self care time.
Excellent.
So I went every week into the city. I met with her once a week in the city.
Mhm.
And that was my day for Denise. So I would go early, park my car, I'd walk around Manhattan, I'll treat myself to dinner. That's when I started to learn how to love me
Yes. Yes.
because that is key. I did not, I was looking for someone to love me, but I didn't love me. So
Yes.
how can you identify the love if you yourself don't even know what it is?
Yes. Mhm.
Right? And that's some of the walls women come with, right? They
Yes.
want this love, but
Hmm.
they're very stoic or they're very hands off or they don't realize the wall is up,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And so, during that process for me, it was such a freeing process.
Mm.
And it allowed me to really dive into who Denise
Hmm.
Vera Wilson really was.
Right.
And I think that is key for a lot of our women
Yes.
in understanding you first. You
Yes.
see, I wanted love, but I didn't know what love is. And I didn't know what love looked like in the way that I needed to receive it.
Right. Hmm.
And that's what's key. If we can't describe that to our men, then how are we expecting to get it?
Hmm.
And then we can't have the wall up, which blocks them from even trying.
Yeah.
Because what we will do is we would criticize, we would nag.
Hmm.
And so I think that was the key pinnacle point of that wall being broken down. And not only that, it helped me heal a childhood trauma.
That's good. That's beautiful. Wow.
And that's what I needed because that childhood trauma plagued me for many years in
Right.
my marriage.
Wow. Wow. You said something, Pastor Denise, about self care. And, I've done so many shows and even, teaching. It's so easy to talk about self care on the outside. We talk about spas, we talked about girl time nails and everything. But to me, you hit the nail tonight by talking about internal self care. And I don't know if we spend enough time really analyzing the self care that we really need. How would somebody get started in analyzing and tapping into, like you did, self care? Because there's something about, you said it, finding and loving the real Denise. And a lot of, I thank God I do now, but I know at one point in my life, years ago, I didn't even know how to love. How do you love yourself when you don't even know yourself? So how does somebody take that first step?
My first step was the fact that I felt in my marriage, I was really struggling with the I'm not enough syndrome. I
Okay.
struggled
Mhm.
with that. It was very hard. And then there were times in which conversations that my husband and I had, or arguments that we had, where I felt leaving like this child. I felt like this 12-year-old, and I couldn't understand why, I was inconsolable, why I could not, why the pain felt so deep.
Yes.
And it wasn't necessarily him,
Mhm.
it wasn't always him, but what was it? And
Right.
I needed to find that. And a friend of mine from work told me, you know what? I think you need to go see a therapist. You really need to go talk to somebody.
Mhm.
And I'm like, and he suggested a therapist for me to go see. And that's who I ended up doing my therapy with. And I actually was with her for 3 years.
Wow. Okay.
3 consistent years. I thought, oh, 3 months, I'll be good. I'm out of here. Right? That's what I said to her.
Right.
And it ended up being 3 years where she finally said, Denise, you are good.
Wow.
You can go ahead. She even invited my husband into a few of our sessions.
Mhm.
And then we went later on after that to focus on the marriage
Yes.
in other sessions. But therapeutic self care is so
Mm.
essential. And I think that if we are struggling with not feeling enough, if
Mhm.
we're struggling with the love and the attention that we're looking for, but we don't feel like we're getting it, but we really are, but we don't recognize it. When we're struggling with our self esteem, when we cannot describe or discuss what we like, what we want,
Yes.
when we are unable, and I'm going to say this, unable to freely walk around naked. And
Mhm.
I'm saying it. I have to expose that. Naked before my own husband.
Mhm.
I feel like I have to cover up, like I'm Eve in the garden and God just saw me.
Right. Right.
You know, I had to learn how to stand naked,
Mm.
not just before. I had to stand naked before God.
Mm.
Then I could stand naked before my husband.
Right. Right.
And so that nakedness is being able to be in the bare minimum of who you are as a person, and God tell me who I am. Because
Mm.
I couldn't even describe it. I had a workshop that I was in, and they said, well, who are you?
Mm.
Dot, 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 fill in the blank. I could not
Wow.
answer the question.
Fill in the blank.
And I literally had to go and ask people, who am I? What do you see in me? What do you see about me? What do you know of me?
Right. Right.
And that's how I started to get information, what other people saw of me, to tap it into, oh, that's what you see.
Wow.
Right. And so it's very interesting. So I think a lot of times we run around looking for love and we want to be loved, but we don't love ourselves.
Yeah. It's so true. True.
And so if we can love ourselves first, and I remember telling that to my students, because I worked in the Department of Education as a counselor
Mhm.
for 30 plus years.
Wow.
And I remember I had this season with my seniors, and I would tell the girls, like, if I could teach you how to love yourself,
Mhm.
you would make different decisions.
Yes.
You would make different choices. And then I heard God say, but you have to teach them because they don't know.
They don't know. Wow.
And so I was in a workshop, I'm telling you, he spoke to me. He says, this is what you call it. Call it love thyself.
Mm. Yes.
Do it on a Saturday so
Mhm.
that everybody can come.
Mhm.
Have it at your school. That I went to my principal. I pitched the entire thing. I wrote it all down. And she said,
Wow.
fabulous. Pick a day and
Right.
let's do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we did it. And that launched a whole movement in our school.
That's beautiful. Wow.
And so loving ourselves is the key, because if we love
Mhm.
ourselves, then we don't have to rely so heavily in knowing that our husbands love us.
Mhm. Mhm.
We would know that they love us. And we know that they will not meet every one of our needs. And it's okay if our needs is met elsewhere as well.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's important, all of those aspects about who we are is important for us to know so we can be better women, better wives, better mothers to our men.
That's right. That's right. Wow. We're going to take a commercial break. This is so good. I tell y'all that Pastor Denise, she always bring awesome revelation. We're going to take a break. I want to come back and I kind of want to pivot because that was so good what you said. And I want to go a little deeper and talk about those needs that we have as women because I think you shed a light on something. I think you're now pulling some covers back because if we really, really want to, I was saying to the saints last night in our Bible study, one of the things the Word of God tells us to do is not just to be a hearer of the word, but
Amen.
a doer. So
Oh,
when
God.
we come back, we're going to talk about how we can do this thing. We'll be right back.
Amen. Okay.
Passionate love. You have two independent words, passion and love, fused together to make a strong definition. Passion is the force that drives the love for something. It's the fuel that keeps love going. Love without passion is like a body without a soul. It's like a car without an engine. No movement would happen. And just in case you are wondering how you can tell if someone truly loves you or if you truly love someone, sacrifice. Sacrifice for one another will indicate if you truly love each other. And sacrifice is giving up something for another thing that is far more important. Just like giving up that piece of pie for your girl that is far more important. Or it's the release of something in your possession in an exchange for another thing that you love. This is exactly what God did when He released and sacrificed His only Son, Jesus, just to have us. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him will not perish, but have everlasting life.
Welcome back to Real Talk with Jean Price. We've been having a great conversation with Pastor Denise. She counsels with her husband with a beautiful a work that they're doing in the kingdom called Better Together, and they are making impact. I'm telling you, they are making impact. And before we went to commercial, Pastor Denise, welcome back again to Real Talk. You said some really, really, and I'm always moved when God can give revelation that helps people because that means it makes us better, right? So I appreciate what you're saying tonight. I want to kind of pivot back and then go forward. How can we, based on what you were saying, have better relationships with people? Because you said some great things as women, how we can handle our men, how we can have self-care inwardly first, of course, but how can we also build those relationships?
I believe that we can build those relationships. First of all, I think that we don't do self care in our relationship. So because people think self care, so we need to do relational self care,
Yes.
manage and take care of each other in ways, right?
Mhm.
And building those relationships, if we're able to come in, as I stated, naked, and we're both vulnerable, kind of like Adam and Eve in the garden,
Yeah.
where we're not running around with fig leaves, right?
Mhm.
Covering up something, covering up a shame or covering up a sin or something like that. I believe that it would facilitate
Mm.
great relationship. So
Yes.
if we can walk in naked and stand there and look at each other naked and see the vulnerability of being able to just do that. I had a pastor that used to pray for me, and I'll call her out. I love her to death. Her name is Reverend Aisha Marble, who used to say, God, allow her to stand naked in your presence.
Wow.
And that always registered with me. How do I stand naked in the presence of God and
Yeah.
not feel shame?
Yes.
And I think that's what we struggle with. We struggle with our internal shame. We struggle with our own internal self-esteem issues and things like that. So to create that relationship, if we're able to say, hey, I had this issue as a child.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I struggled with this one time in my life, but I'm really working on that. And your mate is aware of it. That gives them an opportunity to be able to foster something
Yes.
in you
Mhm.
and with you. And
Yeah.
it also allows and gives them permission to even do that with us.
Yes. Yes. That is so true. So, how do we as women overcompensate? You think in the relationships? Is
Yeah,
it
we do.
that was a quick answer?
We overcompensate. You know, I remember feeling like that at one time. I feel like sometimes we feel like, oh, we're such great people. We're so good. I'm so good to you. Why are you like this?
Right.
Why are
Right.
you like that? You know what I'm saying? And we think a lot of times when we have certain men or we have a like my husband, right? And he was such a nice, he was one of those men that was chivalrous that I had never met in my life.
Okay.
A
Wow.
man who helped me with my coat on, who walked me to a car, who opened the car door for me, who called to make sure I got home. And I'm like, what manner of man
Is this?
is this? Because I've never
Yes. Yes.
experienced that kind of doting over.
Mhm.
And so, in that, my thing is, well, what could be wrong with me? And the reality is, there were a lot of things wrong with
Yeah.
me. Just like there was a lot of things wrong with him, too, right?
Yes.
Because that thing that he did that I thought was exclusively a Denise thing,
Mhm.
he did with everyone because that's the way he was raised.
Yes. Right.
But that peeved me so.
Mm.
It peeved my heart. Like, you do that with them too?
Right.
That's not just a me thing.
Right.
And that's where we overcompensate, thinking
Yes.
it's just us.
Just right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's only us
Mhm.
that they would do that for, and no one else. But they have mothers, sisters, aunts.
Yeah.
Why would they not do that for them?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
That's where we overcompensate.
Yeah. I was having a conversation, Pastor Denise, with someone and was talking about how people see your life. So let me kind of give you a little context. Um, with the help of the Lord, we're not where we used to be in Christ, maybe financially, whatever the case may be. And the person was saying they want to be like my husband and I. And I said to my husband, maybe what they really is saying, they really want to be like the God that's in us. And I want to kind of speak to the fact that sometimes you can see people on the outside but you don't really know what it costs to get where you are. And I want to talk, right? I want to talk about that because people could become envious, they be, jealous, whatever the case may be, but they don't understand the cause of where people are, and Bishop and I were talking about this in Bible study a little last night. We lived in the apartments where, I'm not speaking anything negative with somebody struggling with, but we've gone through those struggling times in our lives. How can we help other women to understand that it's sometimes a heavy walk? We can't always walk in each other's shoes. So how can we help them understand it's not always what you think you can get? You really have to work at it. So I want to talk about how do we work at it.
Right. One of the things when people used to say that to me, I had women that would say that to me,
Okay.
oh, I want what you have because they see where we are, where we live. Um, and my answer was always, you don't know the price that I pay for my oil in my alabaster box.
Come on. Yes.
The
Yes.
price that I paid
Mhm.
to be here, the price that we paid
Yes.
to
Yes.
even have a better together counseling,
Right.
the work that we had to do to even be relevant as
Yes.
husband and wife today. We didn't have to be.
That's right. That's right.
We did not have to be, but we're here
Mhm.
because we had to do the work,
Yes. Yes.
right? And a lot of times we have to tell our clients as well. We sat on the other side of that table for many years, for many different times, for
Mhm.
many different reasons.
Yeah.
You understand? And so we have to know that when we want something, we need to know the cost
Of course. Yeah.
of what it is to get it.
Yes.
It's a sacrificial cost,
Hmm.
right? My husband worked 7 days a week,
Wow.
a 9 to 5, and he was out gigging on the weekends with a band that sometimes took him out of the country to
Mm.
provide for us.
Yes.
I worked,
Hmm.
and I worked after school and things like that. And so it was a lot. And then we had a tumultuous, varying times in our marriage.
Yeah.
I told my husband, and I told someone in a session, marriage is a place where you come to grow.
Yes.
It is not for the weak at heart.
Come on.
It is not for anyone who's ready to run on the dime.
Hmm.
It is a place where it is a institution that God uses
Hmm. Hmm.
to make us see who we are and elevate us
Mm.
out of that. And we can die to ourselves
Yes.
and arise in God,
Yes.
because the marriage is an institution and a covenant of God.
Yes, it is. That's right.
And we cannot sit there and think that it isn't.
Hmm. Hmm.
It doesn't matter whether you went to the Justice of the Peace to get married. It doesn't matter whether you went to a church to get married. It doesn't matter when you went up the block to get married.
That's right.
It's still a covenant
Hmm.
we are making with God.
Yes.
And this is the one institution in which we can edify Him in, but
Yes.
do we do it?
Yes. Right. Right. Mm. Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I got so caught up in that. That was powerful. It's right. Do we do it? Do we edify God? You know, one of the things that people, I mean, this is how I came up in, where divorce is not an option. So there was a conversation, I think my husband was speaking to somebody recently where people are very quick to give up. And I like what you said, Pastor Denise, because through all of that, you and Pastor, your husband, Pastor, stayed in the trenches. You stayed in there. You worked at it. You understood that. To your point, you understood it was work. How do we help other couples, um, even in church? How do I'm just being honest? How do we help couples understand if you're going to get married, it's not about the wedding.
Oh, absolutely.
It's about the marriage. There is a difference.
Absolutely.
So how do we help them?
So, first of all, I believe the church has to definitely um, speak more about marriage, speak more about premarital counseling.
Yes.
Premarital counseling for us is one of our, I think, is one of our main passions that we have, because when our clients are extremely involved and they really take it seriously, they really do well. We prepare them and we let them know up front.
Mhm.
We are preparing you for the rest of your life and not a day.
Right.
Our pastor, when we were getting married, we didn't heed his warning. We were too worried about people because we didn't go to get premarital counseling until 2 weeks before our wedding. And we were having issues,
Okay.
right? And he suggested to us to wait. But we were like, wait, are you kidding me? People are coming into town. We can't, like, this is like in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And so concerned about people and not our souls, not our covenant, not
Right.
even us,
Yes. Yes.
that we went ahead with that marriage. And I have to say, the day after that wedding, we were in utter hell for like 7 years straight.
Wow.
We were battling for 7 years. And so, premarital counseling is the hub of keeping our couples married. And even though we've done a lot of premarital counseling with a lot of our clients,
Mhm.
we still do check ins with them. A
Okay.
lot of times, if they invite us to the wedding or whatever, we would give them 2 free sessions to do check ins after the wedding, right?
Yes.
It's so important to go and learn and understand what you're getting involved in, because it's so much harder to come out of it once you're in it.
Yes.
It's not that easy. And
Right.
so I would inspire and encourage our churches to definitely continue to hone in on marriages
Mhm.
because it is a covenant that God created first,
Yes. Yep.
right? And it is the first ministry.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I remember us talking a lot about our church.
Mhm.
And a lot of times because we were all so busy in ministry, no one knew whose spouses was whose.
Mm.
So, like my husband is in the choir, and I could be standing talking to my husband in the choir loft, and women would be moving me aside to talk to him.
Wow.
Right?
Right.
Let your congregation know who
Yes.
the husband and wives are.
That's right. That's right. Let them know.
Do marriage events.
Yes. Yes.
Have fun. Do
Mhm.
things that are fun.
Mhm.
You
Sure.
know what I'm saying? And I think that will shed light. Even singles ministry, even the day we have to be able to tap into our people and feed them and do the work, what God said, hearers and doers.
Yes. Yes, Pastor.
So if we are over the church, what is the doing that we're doing to make sure our marriage are thriving
Yeah.
and that our people are getting married and
Right.
their marriages are thriving, their families are thriving, their children are thriving.
Mhm.
It's a whole package.
Yes.
I believe that could be the work of the church
Yeah.
intentionally.
Yeah. I totally agree and understand. So we have a couple of couples in our ministry now, Pastor Denise, that to your point, are at the premarital phase. And I was just talking to one of my secondary leadership, going over some things with her, and she was saying, I don't think that they should get married. So they're doing sort of the pre, and then they come and they share, of course, with Bishop and I seniors. And her and her husband feel like, no, we don't think they should get married. In other words, more premarital counseling is
Mhm.
necessary. But the thing that I love about what you said is that people don't talk about that though. They don't
No.
talk about it a lot. To your point, they don't put into action things because God built this covenant relationship with us as a marriage
Mhm.
marriage. So before we close tonight, one last question I want to ask you is what else can we foster as women? Or what practices can we bring to a relationship to make it healthy?
We need to be healthy.
Basically. Yes.
We can't come unhealthy, dysfunctional. I'm sorry.
No,
We
that's so
can't come
true.
unhealthy,
Yes.
dysfunctional, with issues, with hangups. We can't come and expect to get a healthy relationship if we ourselves are not healthy. We have to be healthy. And guess what? When we're healthy, we can recognize healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're dysfunctional, we're going to recognize dysfunction. That's why you have trauma bonding couples who
Right.
trauma bond, right?
Wow.
And you want to be able to you want to attract what you want and what you
Yes.
need
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
what you desire to have. But you have to know what that is. So that means that means that might require you to do some healing, to
Mm-hmm.
do some work, and not selfish work.
Mm.
You see, the self care is not selfish. The
Right.
self care is about me taking care of me so I can take care of you. What do
Yes.
they tell us on the plane? Make sure you put your oxygen on first
Yes.
and then go save
Yes.
somebody else. So that's the last ending word.
Yeah.
Put your oxygen
Put
on
your, I like that. Put your oxygen on.
and
Yes.
go get your Boaz and save him, and y'all could both be saving the world.
It's true. It's so true. Oh, this was so good, Pastor Denise. I gotta have you come back because this was really, really good. But I think there's more. There's absolutely
Yeah.
more that needs to be said. I think that we just touched the surface
Yes, we did.
of being that healthy woman. And I
Right.
love what you just said. I wish I would have known, but we can't go back now. It's been so long. Those principles, right? Because how do you know how to get healthy? And I like what you said, trauma bonding. You don't even know how to do it. And that was one thing that I went through in the injury or the trauma of being abused as a child. I didn't even know how to be healthy.
Right.
So I love it because now we're at you and Pastor Dara and Bishop and I, we're at a place now where at least people can just kind of tap in a little bit of what a little bit of health looks like. Of course, we're constantly dependent on Christ to make us healthier. But I,
Always first.
oh,
First.
forever, forever.
First and foremost.
Yes.
First
So
and
I
foremost.
appreciate you and Pastor Darrell and the work that you're doing. And people have chimed in. I want to thank God tonight for Jada, Adrian, Kenneth, Nala. Thank you for tuning in tonight. And I think I saw somebody, Darius, tonight. Yes, Darius Wilson. So I just want
As
people
our
that
son.
I love it. I love it. So listen, you definitely spoke with words of wisdom. But just so they know, those that are watching tonight, Pastor Denise will be back. We'll let you know when she's coming back on the show. And I'm gonna get some of the other women in my church to come and tune in tonight because I think tune in the next time. Because I think there's some more words of wisdom that you can give. Final words before we close tonight.
My final words is God will navigate you in the direction that you should go. I cultivated a relationship with God and I had to have God teach me what love is.
Mm,
And sometimes that's what we need to do. We have to learn what love is and we have to learn how to love how the way God loves,
yes.
right? That's what I want to say.
Well, Pastor Denise, I agree. That is the key point that we have to do learn how to do it the way God said. Thank you so much for being
You're
on.
welcome. Thank you for having me. I
Oh,
appreciate it.
absolutely. Listen, she'll be back. So I'm going to tell you now. Tune in. Pastor Denise is coming back. Stacy and all your people that chimed in tonight. Thank you so much, Pastor Denise. For those that know Real Talk with Gene Price, we'll be back next Wednesday at 6:30 with Real Talk, Real Discussions. And of course, we'll have a great time. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Passionate love. You have two independent words, passion and love, fused together to make a strong definition. Passion is the force that drives the love for something. It's the fuel that keeps love going. Love without passion is like a body without a soul. It's like a car without an engine. No movement would happen. And just in case you are wondering how you can tell if someone truly loves you or if you truly love someone, sacrifice. Sacrifice for one another will indicate if you truly love each other. And sacrifice is giving up something for another thing that is far more important. Just like giving up that piece of pie for your girl that is far more important. Or it's the release of something in your possession in an exchange for another thing that you love. This is exactly what God did when He released and sacrificed His only Son, Jesus, just to have us. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him will not perish, but have everlasting life.